If you want to apply for a US visa for study for 2025, either spring or fall, now this video is for you. In this episode, I'll be sharing everything you need to know, all the requirements for study visa in the US for 2025. As you may know, policies changes every other time and the interview process keeps getting harder. Now, this is why I'm making this video, for you to be fully prepared so that you can at least beat the interview process. Now, before I proceed, if you are yet to subscribe, kindly subscribe to this channel or click on the notifications icon. That's the bell icon beside the subscribe button. That whenever I make a new video, you get the notifications telling you I've made a video. Now let's jump into it. Guys, welcome back. As you know, study visa is not as easy as people think, but again, it can be easy if you are well prepared and if you understand all the major requirements. Now, before we get started, there are some basic things you need to understand. First of all, in order to increase your chances of approval at the embassy during the interview process, number one, ensure you get some funding. That means some form of scholarship. It could be as low as $1,000 or as high as full funding. Just ensure that you get some funding. That's number one. Number two, avoid schools that are extremely expensive. It doesn't make sense if you're applying to schools that charges up to like $70,000 to $100,000 per year. Sometimes you might be wondering who is sponsoring you. So, except maybe you have excess funding to be able to afford that, it will make sense for you to apply to schools that are not too cheap and not too expensive. Let it be in between. That way, they will be sure that you'll be able to afford, or your sponsors will be able to sponsor that particular study program. So that's number two. Number three, ensure that you start your application process early. That way, you won't have to struggle getting an appointment date and stuff like that. So ensure that you start very early. Number four, please ensure you apply to schools that are well recognized. Again, one of the reasons why you should start your applications early is because sometimes scholarships open at the beginning of the year or beginning of academic year. But if you apply early, you'll be able to see these scholarships, apply for them on time. One school might be offering like $1,000 scholarship. Another one might be offering like a $10,000 scholarship, while some might even be offering full scholarship. So that way, you'll be able to have many options rather than just being stuck with one. So, and if you have many options, it makes it easier for you to choose a particular one that pays you the most. It just makes sense to apply on time such that you'll be able to apply for scholarships. And even if the scholarship is taking like maybe 1 month or 2 months for you to get a response, at least you would have factored all this in. You have applied earlier for those kind of stuff. So that way, you stand a very high chance of getting those kind of scholarships. So some of the other things you also need to do is this: ensure that you're giving your best. So don't be scared. Apply to as many schools as possible, because the reason for that is because, for example, a school might be offering like 1,000 scholarship, another school might be offering like 10,000 scholarship. Get started. These are all the requirements for US study visa in 2025 and beyond. Number one, you need to have your international passports. Number two, visa fee receipt. As is in US applications generally, there's a new site, there are new partners. It has moved from GT Bank to First Bank, from CGI to the new one, which is the Avid. So another thing you need to get is the admission letter. So once you apply to a school, you must have gotten an admission and stuff like that. So once you get an admission, you'll be issued an I-20. So in the case where you get scholarship, you also be getting documents from the school stating that you have scholarships, which should be shown in your admission. The I-20 is more like an admission letter, but it's much more recognized by the government over the admission letter. So once you have an I-20, it shows that the government is aware that you've gotten an admission from a recognized institution in the United States. So that's what the I-20 is all about. The next one is the DS-160 confirmation. So once you are done with your application, you'll be issued like a DS-160 confirmation stating that you have actually submitted your application and the embassy now have your details. Another thing you need to submit is the appointment confirmation. The appointment confirmation is after you have booked your appointment, you'll be issued a letter, which is the appointment confirmation, stating the date and the time of your appointment at the embassy. You also need a 2x2 passport photograph, which is a photograph of yourself on a white background. US standard, it is a 2x2 passport photo. So you also need that with your application. Another thing you also need is your sponsor statement of account or your statement of account, depending on who is sponsoring. So, for example, if you get like a scholarship, you need document showing that you've gotten a scholarship. Somebody is sponsoring you, you'll be needing statement of account from the person or your own personal statement if you're the one sponsoring yourself. And if you have scholarship, you'll be needing a scholarship document from whoever is giving you the scholarship. Most of the time, it will be the school, or if you're getting a scholarship from a government institution, whoever it is, you'll be needing a document stating that you have a scholarship. So another thing you'll be needing is your certificates. So all your certificates, your transcripts, everything that shows that you have studied, or if you're doing let's say an undergraduate study, you'll be needing your WAEC, NECO, GC, stuff like that. While if you're doing like a postgraduate course, you'll be needing your transcript, your certificates, anything that just shows that you have attended school. If you're applying with your spouse, you'll be needing something like a marriage certificate to show that you are legally married. While if you're applying with your children, you need birth certificates to show that you guys are a family, like you're 18. So you can also bring along other supporting documents, like also include other documents like passport photograph, like family photos. If you have investment, if you have lands, stuff like that, you can bring all this as additional documents. But note, it always makes sense to always be over prepared than under prepared, because it's sometimes it just makes sense to all those documents, even if you know that it might not be required, they might not ask for it. It just makes sense to hold it. So that way you know that you are over prepared rather than you being under prepared. Now, these are basic things you also need to understand when you get to the embassies. Now, you've had all the requirements set up. Number two, ensure that you know your application cover to cover. So that way, when you're being asked a question, you can easily respond based on what you have filled in your application. So you don't have to guess, or you don't have to figure out if you have actually imputed the particular information or not. You have to be sure of everything you have applied. So now, the third thing is this: anything you do not include in your application, don't make the mistake of probably saying it during the interview process. Let me give you an example. Maybe, for example, in your application, you state that you are a banker, and maybe during the weekends, you do extra runs. Maybe you're an event planner. It will make sense, maybe, and you didn't include that event planning in your application. So probably when the person is now asking you, so how are you sure you can be able to afford this particular study? You now say, oh, I also do during the weekends, I also do event planning. So automatically, what that means is that you've not truthfully given them all information about you. So if you say stuff like that, or in case stuff like that happens, there's a very high chance that you'll be denied, because they'll feel like you have kept that particular information from your application. So it always makes sense to give as much details in your application. And again, any details you do not give in your application, it will make sense to now state it during the interview, because that would mean if you can keep this information, what other information could you be keeping? So it only makes sense to also consider this. Another thing you should also consider is this: do not lie during the interview process, because sometimes, as you know, these guys are professionals. They've been doing these things for years. These guys are psychologists. They can read when you're lying. So, and they can throw other questions to you that you might not even be prepared for. So it makes sense to always tell the truth. Give them the truth. It's better to say the truth and defend it than for you to lie and you are rejected. And once you lie, it will be stated in your file that you've lied sometime. You know, that's why most of the time they make notes. So, and another thing you need to also understand is if you have been denied before, it will make sense for you to still go back to submit the same application. What do I mean by that is, if you have been denied before, ensure that by the time you are reapplying, something has changed. Maybe before, you are the one that was planning to sponsor yourself, but you don't have enough statement, but now your parent are sponsoring you. Or maybe before, you didn't have enough, maybe before you didn't have scholarship, but now you have scholarship. So always ensure that something has changed, because they will always ask these questions during the interview process. Other things you also need to understand is this: make sure you are well prepared for the interview. Preparation beats anything. And ensure that you have gone through a demo interview. It could be with your parents, it could be with your friends, it could be with a professional. Just ensure that you've gone through an interview process. Somebody has prepped you before you go for this particular process. Always ensure that you have been well prepared by a professional. And the reason I'm saying this is because now these people understand the process. They've done this for a lot of people. They know the questions that the embassy would ask, how best to answer them. So I'll be making other videos on how to answer those questions, but ensure that you are well prepared. So follow all this through, or if you follow this duly or diligently, there's a very high chance that your application will be accepted. So if you have further questions, please drop it in the comment section. If there's anything you want to know more, if there's any video you want me to make, drop it in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to make a video on it or to respond to your questions. And if you find this video useful, click on the like button. Don't forget to share with people that you know might need this. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Click on the notifications icon. That's the bell icon, so that whenever I make a new video, it should send you a notification telling you I've just dropped a new video. That's way you don't get to miss any of my videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.